Imagine finding out the CEO of a company you hold shares in just announced, a massive new product pipeline.
Right, a total game changer for the stock.
Exactly. But you missed the announcement completely. And why? Because some social media algorithm decided a viral comedy video was, more engaging.
Yeah, and it just pushed that crucial corporate news right off your feed.
It's incredibly frustrating. But welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to objectively analyze the mechanics of a fundamentally new way that information and really financial value move online.
We are looking at the emergence of SocialFi and its direct impact on corporate transparency.
Right. And to do this, we're using documentation detailing a new platform called the Alley.io. Now, this platform was developed by BLAQ Clouds, which is a publicly traded company. You can find them under the over-the-counter ticker BCDS.
And if you look closely at the platform's official visual branding, it provides an immediate structural map of what they're actually attempting to build here.
Oh, the logo.
Yeah, the logo. It features this very precise blue and white circuit board pattern, and it surrounds the text X, the alley.
It's a striking design.
It is, but it's not just an aesthetic choice. It operates as a metaphor. The design visually communicates the platform's core premise, which is replacing the chaotic, unstructured digital networks we currently rely on.
Right, to replace them with structured, interconnected digital pathways. Pathways designed specifically for secure information and value exchange.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to rigorously analyze how unified digital communication platforms are fundamentally reshaping modern capital markets.
It's a massive shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
And to fully grasp the mechanics of this shift, we have to start by looking at how public companies currently handle investor relations.
Right, which, as anyone in the space knows, is characterized by a significant amount of systemic friction.
Oh, absolutely. So to understand the solution, we first must define the structural problem.
Well, right now, if you are an investor monitoring a public company, you are forced to navigate this incredibly fragmented landscape.
Because public companies are bound by legacy compliance systems, right?
Right, meaning they issue these delayed, highly formal press releases through traditional wire services.
But the modern investor demands real-time context. They don't want to wait.
Exactly. Consequently, you, as an investor, are forced to jump from reading a sterile regulatory filing over to attempting to gauge market sentiment on completely unverified message boards.
Or desperate social media networks, which is just a mess.
It's totally disconnected.
Think of traditional investor relations right now. It's basically the equivalent of a corporate management team standing in a crowded field with a scattered collection of disconnected megaphones.
That is a perfect analogy.
Just shouting updates into the void. They are entirely dependent on hoping the right shareholders just happen to be walking by at the right time.
And across various third-party platforms, no less.
Exactly. It is highly inefficient and creates a severe latency in information distribution. But what the documentation details is that the Alley.io forces a decisive shift here.
Because it serves as the primary centralized channel for all BLAQ Cloud's corporate communications.
Which moves the operational model away from asynchronous broadcasting.
Right, where you wait for an episodic, quarterly announcement.
Toward a synchronous, continuous flow of information.
Because the latency inherent in traditional press releases, it's just no longer acceptable to the modern investor. The market requires immediate, unmediated access.
But facilitating that real-time flow without causing absolute chaos requires an appropriate infrastructure.
Right, which brings us to the unified interface.
Because the Alley.io goes way beyond simple broadcasting, right? It consolidates social networking, encrypted messaging, voice, and video communication.
And complex collaboration tools, all into a single, seamless digital environment.
The functional advantage of that consolidation is really the elimination of the friction caused by disconnected tools.
Consider the current user experience. You might read a formal filing on a government regulatory website, right?
Right. And then you try to discuss the implications on a public internet forum.
Then you email an investor relations rep for clarification.
And then wait to watch a video presentation on yet another separate hosting platform.
Exactly. Every single time you switch platforms, there is a degradation of the cohesive narrative.
And that friction inevitably leads to information loss, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It leads to weakened shareholder engagement. When you force a stakeholder to navigate multiple disconnected interfaces, the integrity of the company's performance data and strategic vision is compromised.
So by unifying these functions, the platform ensures that the initial acquisition of data, the subsequent analysis of that data, and any direct dialogue with corporate management.
All occur within the exact same ecosystem.
So returning to that megaphone analogy,
Yeah.
this unified platform functions more like a centralized, highly organized digital boardroom.
Yes. You are no longer shouting across a fragmented field.
Right. All the necessary tools for formal presentation, public discussion, and private encrypted consultation are integrated into one dedicated space.
Where everyone present is focused on the exact same objective data.
But building on the concept of a digital boardroom, the structural integrity of that room becomes the next critical factor, doesn't it?
It does, because a unified interface is only valuable if the information within it can be trusted.
And the documentation strongly emphasizes the deployment of verified corporate groups.
Right. In modern capital markets, trust is entirely dependent on the verifiable origin of information.
Let's clarify how that verification actually works for you as the listener. The platform utilizes these verified environments to establish structured discussion ecosystems.
Right.
When you read a statement or a financial update in a verified corporate group on the Ally.io, the underlying architecture provides what is known as cryptographic assurance.
Which is key here.
In simple terms, this means the system generates a mathematically unfakeable digital receipt. It proves exactly who issued the statement and when it was published.
So you are never left wondering if you're reading a parody account or some anonymous rumor.
Right, and that level of verification fundamentally alters the psychology and the nature of the digital conversation.
Oh, completely. On unverified, fragmented message boards, the cloak of anonymity frequently incentivizes rampant speculation, noise, and, well, deliberate market manipulation.
We've all seen that happen.
Exactly. But by anchoring the ecosystem in accountability, corporate management can address shareholder concerns directly and in real time.
Knowing with absolute certainty they're speaking to an engaged, legitimate audience.
Right. And simultaneously, shareholders receive factual updates completely free from the distortion that plagues public internet forums.
Now, the platform enforces this direct-to-community model through another very specific mechanism, which is the complete removal of algorithms.
This is a huge differentiator.
Unlike traditional social media networks where your visibility is dictated by algorithmic sorting, the Ally.io features no algorithmic barriers limiting a post's reach.
No reliance on paid promotion to guarantee an update is seen.
And no dilution from crowded, mathematically curated public feeds. But I have to push back analytically on this specific point.
Okay, go ahead.
Traditionally, the entire justification for algorithmic sorting is that it acts as a necessary mechanism to curate content, right? To prevent massive information overload.
That's the argument, yes.
So, if a platform completely strips away the algorithm, doesn't it run the risk of overwhelming the investor with a flood of raw, unmanageable data? I mean, how does the removal of algorithmic curation actually enhance the signal-to-noise ratio for an investor whose primary goal is finding factual corporate updates?
What's fascinating here is that we need to make a critical analytical distinction regarding the true function of digital curation.
Okay.
In the context of corporate communication, traditional algorithms do not filter for factual accuracy or material importance.
Right. They filter exclusively for engagement.
Exactly. An algorithm is fundamentally designed to prioritize sensationalism, controversy, or high-velocity emotional reaction.
Overdrive factual reporting.
Right. Which means a standard, highly important operational update could be actively suppressed just because it doesn't trigger an immediate comment war.
Or generate rapid clicks.
The algorithm basically treats a lack of outrage as a lack of relevance.
Wow, yeah. That effectively breaks the communication link between a public company and its shareholders.
Unless that company is willing to pay the platform a premium for promoted visibility.
Which is basically a shakedown.
Exactly. Therefore, the removal of the algorithm is not about delivering more noise to the user. It's about guaranteeing the unhindered delivery of the signal.
So the organization is no longer forced to compete for attention or game an artificial system simply to reach its own stakeholders.
Visibility is guaranteed chronologically and directly.
The signal arrives exactly as it was sent.
Right. And by utilizing this unmediated structure, the platform transforms a passive, algorithm-dependent audience into an active, community-owned ecosystem,
Because the communication channels are entirely controlled by the participants.
fostering persistent, meaningful conversations based on objective facts rather than, engineered engagement metrics.
Having established exactly how the platform secures these trusted, transparent, and algorithm-free communities, we need to examine the mechanics of monetization.
Because clear, Verifiable communication inevitably lays the groundwork for secure commerce.
You establish the trust, and then you facilitate the transaction, which brings us directly to the core architecture of SocialFi.
Yes, the concept of SocialFi is central to this infrastructure.
Let's define that objectively based on the text. It's the merging of social networking with financial and commercial functionality, built entirely upon Web3 infrastructure.
Right. It represents the deliberate, seamless convergence of community interaction and economic transaction within the exact same digital environment.
Now, the strategic benefits of merging these two elements are highly complex, but absolutely critical to understand.
They really are. The platform connects communication directly with commerce through integration with the broader BillAQ Cloud's ecosystem.
Specifically utilizing proprietary tools like Apollo Cash.
Right. And we need to be clear that this is not merely pasting a traditional Web 2 payment button like a credit card portal into a chat interface.
No, it's much deeper than that. It requires the structural integration of digital payments, blockchain functionality, and digital asset management directly into the communication layer itself.
And the innovation lies in the seamless execution of these underlying technologies. Blockchain infrastructure ensures that transactions executed within these verified groups are secure, immutable, and settle immediately.
Because traditional financial rails often involve days of clearing times,
Right.
and multiple intermediaries.
Exactly. When you weave digital assets and immediate payment capabilities directly into the fabric of the social network, the friction between discovering value through communication and exchanging value through commerce drops essentially to zero.
So users aren't required to leave the conversation, open a new browser tab, or log into a separate brokerage application to execute a financial transaction.
Right. It all happens right there.
The documentation outlines a very precise internal economic ecosystem that drives this forward, and we should map it out systematically.
Let's do it. The cycle begins natively with communication.
Because the communication is direct, verified, and unhindered by algorithmic suppression.
Which naturally cultivates high-quality engagement among the users.
And that engagement, when sustained over time within a high-trust environment, systematically drives organic community growth.
Right. As the community scales in size and depth, it creates a highly concentrated market of deeply informed participants.
Which leads to the final critical phase of the cycle.
Yeah.
Community growth enables commerce.
Because the Web3 financial tools are already embedded natively within the platform, this engaged community can immediately and frictionlessly transact.
So that transaction could involve participating directly in a new corporate offering, purchasing digital assets, or seamlessly exchanging value peer-to-peer within the verified group. So what does this all mean for the broader digital landscape? Because the documentation notes that while this architecture is purpose-built for public companies navigating capital markets, it's equally applicable to independent content creators.
Right, and emerging Web3 communities.
So beyond the corporate boardroom application, how does this precise infrastructure empower creators or organizations to maintain full control over their communication channels and monetization without intermediaries?
Well, this specific mechanism addresses one of the most significant problems regarding the nature of digital ownership today.
Which is?
Traditional Web 2 platforms operate as massive intermediaries. They extract a significant percentage of the economic value generated by creators and organizations.
Effectively charging a toll in exchange for simply hosting their audiences.
Exactly. By removing both the algorithmic intermediaries that control reach and the financial intermediaries that control payments, the Ally.io ensures that the users retain complete sovereignty over their communication channels.
This is a vital concept to highlight. Under the traditional model, whether you are a publicly traded company or a content creator, you are essentially renting access to your own audience.
The platform owns the distribution network.
Right. And they can alter the terms, throttle your reach, or increase the rent at any moment. You don't own the ecosystem, you just occupy it conditionally.
But by transitioning to a model with no algorithmic throttling, organizations retain full visibility to their stakeholders.
And they capture the actual long-term economic value of their community.
Because the commercial functionality is directly integrated and operates peer-to-peer.
Right.
This fundamentally alters the dynamic of digital value exchange. It shifts the balance of power entirely away from central platform operators and redirects it toward the communities that are actually generating the value.
To synthesize the overarching narrative for you, the source material indicates a definitive and necessary evolution in digital communication infrastructure.
The trajectory of the market is moving sharply away from algorithm-driven, fragmented feeds.
Feeds that prioritize engineered engagement over factual accuracy.
Yeah.
Instead, modern stakeholders are demanding unified, community-driven platforms.
And the deliberate convergence of SocialFi, real-time shareholder communication, and embedded digital commerce directly addresses that demand for corporate transparency and verified ownership.
By centralizing the communication tools, rigorously verifying the participants, completely removing algorithmic barriers, and natively integrating Web3 financial capabilities.
The Ally.io establishes a self-sustaining ecosystem where information and financial value flow symmetrically and securely.
It's a huge shift. This technological shift does not merely optimize an existing set of legacy processes, it completely replaces the underlying philosophy of how public entities and their communities interact.
Right. We are witnessing a transition from an outdated model of passive, delayed broadcasting to a model of active, monetized, and highly secure real-time collaboration.
As we conclude this analysis, there is a rigorous, forward-looking question you should consider regarding the broader implications of this technology. If corporate communication, investor relations, and complex financial transactions become seamlessly unified within algorithm-free, community-owned ecosystems, how might this permanently alter the global regulatory landscape?
That's a massive question. And furthermore, what happens to the traditional financial media's historic role as the primary gatekeeper of market information?
Especially when public companies and their shareholders possess the infrastructure to bypass them entirely, choosing to transact and communicate directly in real time.
That is certainly a profound shift to monitor as these ecosystems continue to scale.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We have rigorously analyzed the architecture and strategic implications of the Ally.io and the broader integration of SocialFi.
We will continue to evaluate how these unified digital communication platforms are fundamentally reshaping the intersection of global capital markets and digital commerce.